Here we have the last match of the night of the NCAA Finals in 2024, mostly because this is the most anticipated matchup in regards to someone winning a Hodge Trophy, probably the most coveted award in college wrestling. This is cumulative throughout the year, most dominant wrestler in all weight classes, which these two both have a pretty good argument for because they are both undefeated with a bonus percentage higher than 80%, which is just silly. So while Aaron Brooks is probably the easy favorite, if Trent could pull off an upset here, it would certainly tip his name in favor of winning that Hodge Trophy, but spoiler alert, he wasn't able to. Aaron Brooks is just ridiculously good, no two ways around it, and is able to stay in excellent position at all times. Also, I'd like to highlight Brooks' ability to ride his opponent out, which can totally negate your opponent's neutral ability. So while everyone's concentrating on neutral because of that 3-point takedown, to me it only makes it that much more important to be good on top because it can totally shut down a wrestling match. But I'll talk more about it later. 20 seconds into the first, Brooks has an underhook with the left and a tricep on the right. It looks like he's almost trying to do like a hip toss where he would throw his left hip in and rotate his upper body, try to throw or at least bring Hidlay down to his back to the right. This could also just be in an effort to keep Hidlay in bounds or get him off balance in general. You can also trip with your right foot if you extend your right leg and do kind of like a judo toss. Steve Mako was famous for stuff like that. But Hidlay circles in that direction, which releases the pressure and gives him a solid footing. Aaron then snaps the head down to a front headlock, circles a little bit to the right, which baits out that reaction from Hidlay, then attacks that left ankle. Just the subtle series of motions and misdirections here really allows Brooks to get to that shot. All of this is super slick. He pulls the situation into a cradle, mostly because Hidlay wisely started circling towards the edge of the mat, which makes it so if Brooks finished circling around for the basic takedown, they would be out of bounds and he wouldn't get anything. I would always recommend you finish the takedown here in a normal way. Going for the pin with a cradle would be awesome, but the takedown is just so much more consistent. So I would always recommend you try to just get the normal takedown. I call this losing everything because you got greedy, which happens more often than you think. Brooks had no choice here though. In order to stay in bounds and keep the action going, he had to switch to the cradle. The easiest way to get this cradle is to dig that left knee behind the leg that's outstretched, roll left across your back, and then come up on top in a tripod, but that would most likely land him out of bounds as well. So Brooks doesn't have that as a reliable option either. Notice how Hidlay is playing the edge here. He's using the out of bounds to his advantage for sure, but he's not pulling the action out. This makes it difficult for a ref to call stalling or fleeing the mat because technically he's not fleeing and trying to get a fresh start. He's still engaging with the position and defending. He's playing it very well. You can't run away here no matter how tempting it is to try to just kick out. You have to face your opponent and fight like Hidlay is doing. Brooks is forced to drop to a leg and still notice Hidlay not turning to kick out, which would easily give up a fleeing the mat call, maybe a takedown too because his feet would start to come together and Brooks could dive at the free one, secure both, and slide his feet to stay in bounds. Brooks starts to stand up and pull the leg. Usually you would do that to try to get the action back in bounds again. You'll see some wrestlers pull people back to the middle of the mat like that. You can even do like a quick pull to pop your opponent off of his hips and then you can dive at a double. But Hidlay is still not in that runaway mindset. He notices the ankle is within reach and so he goes ankle pick, but unfortunately for him, he doesn't get height. You really need to come up with this ankle, which gets your opponent off balance, push forward, try to plant the foot of yours that he has to the mat, and then look for a crossface. The person who wins scrambles like this is the person that's able to maintain height and then attack the head. So either he didn't try to come up and get height or he wasn't able to, which is unfortunate for him. Here Brooks is in a great position to go crackdown. He would need to let his right knee bend to the right so that he can circle left and get an angle, get a crotch lock, scoot around, look to lock up the near leg, get his hips up, go crossface, get a takedown, but he just plain doesn't go for it. So the action falls out of bounds and no one gets anything. Usually I don't go over non-scoring events, but this little scramble had a lot of important things to talk about, so I did anyways. They both played the position super well, but they still had a lot of options left on the table. They spend the most of the rest of the period hand fighting. Hidlay gets hit with a stall call at around 40 seconds, but Brooks does get a takedown before the period is out. They are forehead to forehead, both have lefty collar ties, and it looks like Brooks starts going for a high crotch at the same time Hidlay goes for a deep underhook with the left, which unfortunately for Hidlay makes that high crotch easier to get to. When someone goes underhook and starts elevating it high, we call it like jacking up the underhook. You can easily dip underneath for a fireman's carry, and that's the kind of motion that's happening here. Hidlay is able to get a sprawl off, but Brooks is able to scoot his hips under a little, which makes the lift easier to get, elevates the leg, and turns. So I think what Brooks is initially going for is to lift that leg up, turn towards it, and then scoot back between the legs, which makes your opponent fall forward to his hands and gives you two easy legs to collect. One of my teammates at Lehigh, Dave Nakasone, used to do this finish all the time, and it's super difficult to scramble out of. Nakasone actually beat the NCAA champ Jordan Lean from Cornell once, so while he didn't have the success he wanted, he was still very good, and so was this finish. As Hidlay is forced to his hands, however, he attacks Brooks' right leg and tucks his head to roll under. I don't think he was looking for anything specific. This is a weird motion for a scramble going out the back door like this, which is why it's effective because it's a bit confusing. Hidlay does have that left leg that would enable him to get some funk, a leg pass, pull the ankle across the chest, roll across your back, come out the back door, but it looks like he isn't able to secure it. It's very likely that Brook was already digging for a crossface with his left arm, which could in turn trap Hidlay on his back if he kept trying to pull the leg. So he bailed from that idea to not incur any additional damage. Brooks gets the takedown, 3-0 to close out the period. Second period, Brooks gets choice, chooses bottom, works his way to his feet, peels hands, gets the escape. Why not add another point, especially if you're confident that you'll get that escape? Scores 4-0 Brooks. Not too much happens for the rest of the period, mostly just hand fighting. At 46 seconds, Hidlay goes for a random single. Notice Brooks put his left hand down, a beautiful down block, uses that righty collar tie to immediately look for an ankle pick on the left. Hidlay's body kind of just gets thrown out of bounds here, so Brooks wasn't able to connect with that ankle and look to finish the shot, but it was a very well-timed re-attack. I love stuff like this. At the 23-second mark, Hidlay gets hit with a second stall call, which gives Brooks another point, bringing it to 5-0. Third period, Hidlay gets choice, chooses bottom. He needs something to get back into this match, and neutral hasn't been working all that amazing. You could say it's the default choice, but here it's a solid choice for more than that reason. This actually ends up being Hidlay's downfall for the rest of the match because he isn't able to get anything. He isn't able to get free until the last 5 seconds when Brooks kind of just pushes him away. Brooks decides to keep him down to not give him another chance at anything. And then at the end, he's just like, okay, whatever, I won. I'll push away. I'll dance for 5 seconds. It doesn't matter. Scores 5-1 after the escape, but Brooks gets the riding time point at the end, bringing the score to 6-1. This is an interesting thing to note. Even though the 3-point takedown makes it super important to be good on your feet, you can still see what being good on top can do for you. In that regard, it's not any different than before when we had the 2-point takedown. If you do get up on points like that and you can reliably ride someone out, you can shut down the match completely before it's even over. If Brooks let Hidlay up at the beginning of the third, or Hidlay took neutral, the match could have turned out completely different. There's a lot more chaos to be had on your feet, and top and bottom, if you're good on top, the chaos is kind of just toned down entirely. However, Brooks said, no, screw that. If you're taking down, I'm keeping you down. And so his proficient top game sealed the match out 2 minutes before it was over and made his dominant showing in the finals of NCAAs even more impressive.